All right, we're going to get started. This topic will be the Son of Righteousness. And we'll kind of tie in a lot of the stuff we've already been talking about. And we'll start out by reading Malachi chapter 4, verse 2, where we get this title. It says, "But unto you that fear my name shall the Son, S-U-N, of righteousness arise with healing in his wings," or rays of light, "and you shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall." So, it's kind of alarming to some, or it's kind of confusing to some people when they see this, because they've learned about how pagans have worshipped a sun god. So they think within themselves, even myself, I'm like, why would Christ be called the Son of Righteousness when all throughout history pagans worship the sun? And of course, we talked about that before, how they like to steal symbols and signs and pervert their meaning. But let's go to Ezekiel 8, verse 15 and see an instance of sun worship. And it reads, he said, "Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these." Now, just prior to this, they were worshiping Tammuz and stuff like that. He was showing Ezekiel what the elders or the leadership was doing, what they were doing, and how they were participating in idolatry. And in verse 16, he says, "And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, and their faces toward the east, and they worshiped the sun toward the east." You might be thinking, well, Pastor Ben, why are we doing a study called the Son of Righteousness then? If God was, this was one of the greatest abominations that they were committing. Well, we'll get into that here in a second. Got to use this, I guess. But then we go to Revelation 12, verse 1, and we're going to see the sun here again. It says, "And there appeared a great wonder," this word wonder is a sign, "in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Well, you get, Christians, they learn a little bit, and they want to be so careful and stay away from what pagans have done, that they say you can't look at the sun and the moon and the stars for signs or for any kind of teaching aid. Well, right here we're told there's a great sign that we're supposed to observe, and it has a meaning, and part of that meaning is this woman was clothed with the sun. And here was actually in 2017, September 23rd, you actually have what appears to be the description here in this verse. The moon's under Virgo's foot, and the sun is clothing her with glory. And so we have an example there. I'll go back here. September 23rd, 2017. Now, it's not the only time this alignment has taken place, but I can't remember all. It doesn't happen all the time. It's kind of a rare thing. So then we see we're supposed to look at the sun as a sign. But what you have here, and what pagans have done, is there's two things that runs as a common theme throughout them, and it's connected to the number 666. Is when you get down to the bottom of it, you always come down to the sun and the serpent. This is the one symbol that the serpent has desired from the beginning, is the sun. And for good reason. When you look at it in nature, it's the life-giving force to everything on earth. It grows our crops, everything. Oh, I'll go back to that slide here. And you can see here, this is actually called a solar serpent. You see the edges of the serpent there? It's supposed to represent rays of light. And you see it's over a six-pointed star here. Now, the six-pointed star is not always a bad symbol. That was one thing that I had a hard time with before. But geometrically, God created geometry, and that's actually not a bad symbol. Just like the sun is not a bad symbol, or the rainbow, and things like that. But some of these things have been defined to be bad because they identify them with how the enemy uses them. And here's a symbol of the Theosophical Society. There is no religion higher than the truth. I got up here 3 pi, a solar disk here. And there again, you have the serpent surrounding these symbols. And you see, this is actually a cross here. The symbol of the sun over there and the cross. We looked at that earlier with the balance of the cross. That's really what they're trying to say. And now, what's interesting is the heavens display the glory of the Lord. Well, Satan's trying to steal that glory. So everything that the heavens display, like the power of the sun, how it does all these things, he wants that symbol. He wants to be the light of the world. That's what actually Lucifer means, the bright shining star. And here you see this is from, I think it's pronounced Chichen Itchen. I might be Chichen Itza. Okay, Chichen Itza. Sorry. It's a tongue twister for me. But at the spring equinox, it lights up, it reflects right through here, so it actually makes it look like a serpent, a solar serpent, going all the way down. You see the head there. That's aligned with the equinox there. So paganism observes the heavenly bodies. It's just a higher, realm than the earth, so to speak. Except they do it in a negative way, obviously. And there you see another view of it. And here's the Mayan serpent sun god. You can see this is the serpent part. And here he is, and he's wrapped, like he's in control of the sun. He's like the serpent sun god. I do plan to probably do a little mini-series on the serpent and the sun. It's really important. All right. I think I already read that verse. So we look at that verse, and again, we look at it and we think, well, we shouldn't have anything to do with the sun because of something like that. But there's a big difference there. We look at the sun as a symbol, as a sign, like it should be. We don't fall down and worship it. But even the pagans, some of them look at it as a sign, but they look at it as a sign of Lucifer, not of Jesus Christ. So there's always this duality going on. It started way back with Genesis 3:15. You had the woman seed versus the serpent seed. There's always two sides of the coin, so to speak. So that's kind of important to understand, because a lot of people, when they get a little bit of knowledge and stuff, and they think that everything that has to do with a certain symbol is evil, like the pyramid and the all-seeing eye. The enemy has his own representation of it, but so does God in the Bible, and we're going to show that a little bit more here. Genesis 1 verse 14, we'll just review this verse. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night," not only physically, but there's a spiritual lesson in this as well. "And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years." So we are to observe their message. So this basically is the theme of what Satan has done through paganism. This is from Romans 1 verse 25. Who changed the truth of God, all the true astronomy, true numerology, true geometry, into a lie, and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. That's really the whole theme of anything connected with paganism. They worship man, they worship animals, they worship whatever. And ultimately it leads to worshiping the devil himself. And there's that symbol again, is that as the sun moves through around the earth, at least from our perspective, is that everything in the winter season symbolizes death. And then as the sun rises, it's a new day, it's resurrection. So that's why you even have in nature the symbol of the death and resurrection of Christ. Why that's important is because we're going to find out it's connected to this symbol here, that was left for this purpose. So not only do we have the stars and the sun and the moon for great signs, God left us a sign even on the earth. Not just this, another verse, I think it's in Jeremiah, he says he's placed signs in Egypt as well as in other places among the sons of men. Like Stonehenge, and there was another one that's slipping my mind, but anyways. Verse 19, in that day, now I'm just going to say this, I always found it curious, I'm like, what's the purpose of Stonehenge? What were they doing? Why were they measuring all this astronomical stuff? And why do the pagans measure astronomy as well? So there's both sides, there's a reason why they're doing it. And it's not just so they can say, oh neat, we can calculate things. There's more to it than that. Isaiah 19 verse 19, in that day there shall be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. And it shall be for a sign and for a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. So that's pretty important. If God's given us a sign or a witness, it's something that we ought to pay attention to. I mean, think about this. He placed this here and kept it here for thousands of years, 4,000 or more, and he wanted it to stay here so that we could get the message from it. And what's fascinating about this Great Pyramid is it'll even if you're any kind of a scientist or person that delves into that knowledge, if you're an atheist or something, if you really dug into this proves the existence of God. And it's fascinating. So it said it was at the pillar and the border of Egypt. Now the Great Pyramid was placed about right here, right next to the Nile River. And that would be in the midst of Egypt, because you have there was the southern Egypt and what was it? I'm trying to think. Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. I'm sorry. Actually, Lower Egypt was the Nile Delta region, and Upper Egypt was everything basically past here. But there's actually another one that I haven't seen anybody discover. Where is the Promised Land? Where does it start? The River Nile. Now think about this. God actually placed, I know some people have a problem with it, but like the Statue of Liberty. It's a woman holding a torch. It can be looked at both ways. The pagans use it for another reason, but Israel is symbol. God uses the symbol of a woman to represent things like, even in Proverbs, a woman is wisdom is personified as a woman. So that's, if you look at it in the right perspective, there's no problem with a woman sitting there with a torch if you're not worshiping liberty. If you're looking at it as this is the land of the free because of God, that's a different way. But that's another topic we can get into another. My point is that's placed right on the eastern coast of our nation. So if you're coming in from the sea, you would see that, and that was supposed to be the symbol of what our land was about. Well, this is going to be the border of the Promised Land right here, prophetically. So God has a monument that symbolizes His kingdom right on that border. So ultimately, right here is actually this Nile River in the future is the border of Egypt. Egypt doesn't go into that way. That's our land, so to speak. All right. Now, this all-seeing eye, which I'm going to do a study on this when I get back. Oh, they might be. Okay. I'm going to do a study on this when I get back and start rolling back into Revelation on all the verses that have to do with this eye here. But I'm not going to go into that today, but it's also the symbol of the Son of righteousness, that actually shines over the world. I'm going to go over here. So I'm going to read from page 1176 of Pyramidology, book number 4 by Adam Rutherford. He says, the pyramid in Egypt was a symbol of the radiating sun. How true this is from the view of spiritual symbolism also, for when Christ, the Son of righteousness, is exalted on high, the great untypical topstone He will radiate His great power and love down from the earth until the whole world is filled with His glory and brought into complete alignment with Him. And again, this symbol is a symbol of the new covenant, Israel under the new covenant. And originally, here's one of the numbers that actually gives it up. Originally, there were 144,000 polished casing stones made out of limestone, which would make this a white pillar in the midst of Egypt there. So when the sun would shine on it, it would actually look like a star on earth. It was even said that you could actually see the reflection of this from Jerusalem. I don't know how you would, but maybe from a mountain or something, you'd see the reflection. All right, and with the capstone on it, you'd have the ultimate fulfillment. Now we're going to go into something kind of cool here. Some of you might have did this. This might look like a lot of numbers and be confusing at first, but it's really you'll at least get some of the numbers that are simple to understand. This is what's called a solar seal. Now the pagans have used it. They call it the 666 magic square and things like that because you see this number here. So automatically when you look at it and you don't delve into it, you think this is something to do with magic or sorcery or something like that. But the seal contains numerics related to the sun and its effects upon heaven and earth, both scientifically and spiritually. You see here this number 111. It's a significant number, obviously, because it's all repeated here. I'm going to break this down a little bit here. So basically this is laid out. I'm going to go into, actually this is a summary. I'm going to go into the detail of it later. But you see I'll just highlight some numbers here. Number 36, this is numbered 1 through 36. The numbers 1 through 36 are on here, and then it's arranged in the pattern so that it does this. And I'll explain that in a little bit. But you see the number 111 there, which is the number of light. 666 is actually a number of creation or matter. So you got 111 times 6 equals 666, or light times 6 equals matter. I got on here, this seems to be explaining the process, physically anyways, of photosynthesis. I'll go into that a little bit more when we get to that section. And here's another thing we talked about this morning. The natural breakup of a year is not actually 6 months and 6 months. The harmonious breakup, I should say, actually relates to music and things like that. But I'm going to explain why that is so here in this study. 7 plus 5 equals 12. Because there are 7 months of the sun's regenerating power and 5 months basically of winter in the northern hemisphere around the 30th parallel, where the Great Pyramid is, where Jerusalem is, and so forth. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the cross and how that's connected in with this as well. The cross is actually a symbol of life, and we get our multiplication, or addition and multiplication signs from the cross. If you go look this up and research it, the man, I can't remember his name now, but the man that came up with it purposely used the cross for these things. And that's pretty neat. So these are all connected. The sun, the Great Pyramid, this numerology for what's called the solar seal, and the balance of the cross that we talked about this morning. All right. So obviously, the sun is a symbol of the light. It is the physical light of the world, but it's also a symbol of the spiritual light of the world. And we see that right here in John chapter 1. He says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by Him, and without Him was not anything that was made." Now check this out. "In Him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not," or could not overtake it. Then, I'll just stop there for a second. So, the sun here is a symbol of Jesus Christ. The light. Jesus Christ is the real light of the world, of which the sun was only a learning example, a great sign. And that's what he's going to explain here. "There was a man sent from God whose name was John. The same came for a witness to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. Now it's kind of interesting. The moon is not that light, but it bears witness of the light. It's the reflection of it. It's really cool. That was the true light that lighteneth every man that cometh into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. Remember, it was the Word, it was the light. All those things are creative energies. I mean, have you guys ever been really tired and you start talking or thinking about the Word, and all of a sudden your brain just, it's like zapped with power. It's like now you got the energy to do it, even if you were just exhausted. So he came unto his own, and his own received him not. Now that's fascinating. There was a remnant of Judah that was there, amongst, there were Kenites and other people like that, but mostly the remnant of Judah rejected Christ. They were not all the Pharisees and the Sadducees were Kenites. They were his own brethren that were self-righteous hypocrites who thought they could achieve their own balance of righteousness by their own works. And the Apostle Paul started out as one of them. And he had to be struck down and humbled to realize his error. So they rejected him. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name. So just as the sun gives power to the earth, Christ gives us power through his spiritual light. I'm going to jump over to John 8, verse 12. Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. Now, if you go back to Genesis, remember there was two lights, the great light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. So when Christ came, it was, I think, when he was here on earth, I think I remember a couple verses, he said, walk you while it's daytime. Because he was the sun here actually on earth, the true light, of which the sun was a symbol. So every day we see this happening. It's fascinating. The truth is all around us, in nature, in astronomy, everything, over and over again in types and examples. So like Paul said, and I think it was Romans, we are without excuse if we just pay attention. But I've said this before, the truth is all around us, but seldom found. I mean, it's so true. It's like people are in that stupor. Their senses are dulled to everything. I mean, every day we see this symbol. Every year we see the sun go around even a larger cycle. And then even the great year, we see that. We don't experience it in our lifetime, but we know it happens. Okay, let's move on. All right, I'm going to read this from page 42 of Beginnings by Bonnie Gant. Now, Bonnie Gant was an excellent biblical mathematician. And we're going to read this from her work here. These two great lights, as Genesis author called them, are indeed signs pointing to the greatness of their designer. The illustration below shows the moon inscribed within a square. The perimeter of the square becomes the solar number 864, thus appropriately illustrating that it is one light source. The moon merely reflects the light of the sun. So what's neat about this is the sun is actually, the diameter of it is approximately 864,000 miles. Well, the moon's diameter is 2,160 miles. But if you put a square around the moon, you would get 8,640. Same number, just more zeros over here. So you can see the perfectness of our Creator. He's got everything in its proper perspective. Even the sun and the moon are in ratio of each other numerically. Now, in Gematria, 864, this is the numeric value for the word God, or theon, in the Greek. It's just pretty fascinating, because 864 is the number of the sun. 864, the phrase, the sun shines, from 2 Samuel 23, verse 4, is actually 865, but for biblical numerics, there's a room for adjustment of 1. I think she explains that down there. So that's, for all intents and purposes, that's 864. And then 216 is a number that we're not going to, I don't think we're going to get into tonight. All right. Sorry, this one's a little bit blurry. But it says, this is from page 144, same book. The relationship of the top stone to the pyramid's square base is as the relationship of the sun to the earth. The base representing Earth's orbit around the sun. And it says this chief cornerstone of the entire structure bears the solar number in gematria. Cornerstone, the word cornerstone in the Greek, of which Christ is that chief cornerstone of the pyramid, adds up to 864. The solar number, the sun's diameter, is 864,000 miles. It represents the sun, and the sun represents God. Thus, God, Theon, has a number value of 864. I'll just read this too, I guess. The total height of 485 feet for the Pyramid of Light beautifully illustrates a statement made by the prophet Isaiah, where he says, "The Lord shall be unto you an everlasting light." Isaiah 60, verse 19, its letters add to 485. The number 485 is also the gematria for there is no rock like our rock. So the pyramid is 480 feet high, and even this phrase here in gematria adds up to that. Now, if you're wondering, well, what are you talking about gematria? Well, remember when God said, "Here is wisdom. Whoever has understanding, calculate the number of the beast." He said it's a number of somebody's name. That's gematria. So gematria is, there is so much deep truth, and it always ends up being simple. It all fits together. It never confuses you. Even in the mathematic value of every word that God spoke. Because he can't speak a word that's not mathematically perfect, not geometrically perfect, not anything it can't be unperfect. And the enemy knows this. There's something called the Kabbalah. They get into numerology a lot. And they know well, even if they reject our God and they're trying to worship their false God, they know they can find some cool science, even by looking at the Bible, and try to pervert God's codes, like in DNA, try to create hybrids and clones by using God's scientific math, even in the Old Testament and the New Testament. So if you're a Christian who is a scientist, you're going to find all of the great scientific laws are in the Bible itself, as well as the Great Pyramid. All right. So back to 864. It's a solar number. It's a number for the Greek, numeric value for the Greek word theon, God. And it's also the cornerstone, that top stone of the pyramid, 864. I'll just go down here and read this. The relationship of the sun to the Creator and the beginning of creation is also the same relationship of light to the top stone of the pyramid. The top stone was referred to in Psalm 118, verse 22, and it was called the head of the corner. Now this is a baffling one. Its Hebrew letters add up to 666. When I first read that, I'm like, what? I don't want anything to do with 666. And I was ready to throw Bonnie Gaunt's book out in the garbage. She's scaring me. 666 is a number of creation. Why it's perverted now, there's more to it than that, but why it's perverted now is because what did people do? They worship the creature, the 666, more than the Creator, the 888. That's Jesus' name in the Greek. Adds up to 888. So that's why 666. So 666 is not a bad number. It's a bad number when you take it and worship it apart from God. So don't let that alarm you when you see 666 in the pyramid and stuff like that and think that's a devil's sign. Because when you look at it, I explained this before. I got a slide on. I'll wait till I get there. Sorry, get too excited. All right. So we're going to dig into this a little bit. We talked about this morning some, but 7 months of the sun's regenerating power and 5 months of death. Where is this broken up? Or where do we have this in the Bible? I failed and I didn't give you a page number here. I apologize. This is from a book titled The Computation of 666. I have it on the website. and I forgot to put the page, I'm sorry. But it's from chapter 6, so you'll be able to find it for a reference. The fish and the seed of corn. He says, it were almost impossible that the division of 12 into 7 plus 5 and its projection into 14, described in the previous chapter, should not be demonstrated in the account of the 12 months duration of the flood. That event being, as it was, a great token of the then future atonement, all the way back from Noah's flood. And that's what paganism has built their stuff off of, was Noah's flood. Let us now endeavor to show how this was and in what way it is connected with the gospel. One of the most remarkable features in Scripture is that at every change of dispensation, every different age, i.e. when God gives up one class of men who have proved unfaithful to the consequences of their wickedness, that he may assume dealings with another class. The machinery employed is always diluvian. Creation itself having an aquatic beginning. Genesis 1 verse 2. Everything came out of the water. The earth was covered with water, and then the land appeared, and so forth. I shall elaborate this later. Okay, let it suffice for the present. I'm going to go to the next verse here, and then we'll kind of hash it out a little bit here. In Matthew's gospel, after the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, the account of the mysteries of the kingdom commences just as the Noachian dispensation commenced. That is to say, spiritual truths are taught out of a ship regarding the fish and the seed of corn. Now, here's what I mainly came here for. If you get one thing out of this, this is what I want you to get out of it. The 5 months Noah passed on the waters, which terminated at the vernal equinox, represent him as the fish, the sign the Lord is giving to the Pharisees. Whereas the 7 months that the ark rested on the mountain are a period representing the ripening of seed, the sun's power of ripening, seed lasting. And I'm just going to go here and finish that thought. In those latitudes for 7 months. So basically what he's saying, if you go back to Noah's account, the floods lasted for 5 months, and then the ark rested on the mountain. So the year was divided up into 5 months plus 7. Even way back then. Now everything back in the very beginning of Genesis is a foundation for everything else that is taught in the Bible. If you want to understand more of Revelation and stuff like that, you always got to go back to the beginning. Because what do we have in Revelation? We saw a sign with a woman, with the sun and the moon. Where do you find out about the sun and the moon and the stars? Genesis 1. And there's another witness to that. The Jewish ritual, or the Israelitish ritual, I should say, of Leviticus chapter 23 comprise 7 lunar months, during which alone the Jewish husbandmen might, or indeed could, gather and garner the fruits of the harvest. The similar period of about 7 months, or 7 signs of the zodiac, is marked out by the Great Pyramid of Giza. That colossal structure not merely illustrates what has been written above regarding the subdivision of the number 12 into 7 plus 5, as based upon the scientific character of the cross, or balance, but it shows one more reason now for the body of Osiris being held to be divided into 14 pieces. Now he meant that the Egyptians perverted this symbol, again, because it was in their land, and they used it to represent Osiris. But the point is when we start Passover, why I'm talking about the 7 months, so we can understand it, is it starts this 7-month period of the sun's regenerating power. All of the feast days. Now, when you get into the book of Revelation, there's the harvest at the end of that period. So what do you make out of it? I don't know, but it's an important foundation to lay just to get the basics. Yes?
7 months starting with Passover, or
it's actually, we're going to get into that. Technically, the Great Pyramid divides it 14 days before the equinox. And then you go 6 months and then 14 on the other side. So that 1 month is actually split into 2. So we'll look into that. Okay, so I'll read another little bit here. The division of the 12 months of the year into 7 plus 5, I already read that, sorry, is beautifully described in Fellow's Mysteries of Freemasonry. Now again, the Egyptians recognized what it did, and they made their own meaning out of it. So anyways, what he says here, such was the tomb of Osiris, covered under those enormous masses. And we know it wasn't Osiris. There's nobody. The Great Pyramid is not a tomb. It has an empty tomb in it that we're going to show in a little bit. That was the sign of Christ defeating death. That's why there's an empty tomb. When they broke in there, they expected to find like a mummy or something like you did in all the other pyramids. No case on the top of the coffin in there, stone coffin. Its exact dimensions are the same as the Ark of the Covenant. I mean, it's all so perfect. All right, which the Egyptians raised to the star to give us light. One of these, let me see where I'm going to skip here to get the point. What does he got here? Perpendicular height. Okay, here's the point. That 14 days before the spring equinox, the precise period of which the Persians celebrated as the revival of nature, the sun would cease to cast a shadow at midday and would not again cast it till 14 days after the fall equinox. Then the day or the sun would be found in the parallel or circle of the southern declension, which answers to 5 degrees 15 minutes. He says this would happen twice a year, once before the spring equinox and once after the fall equinox. The sun would then appear exactly at midday upon the summit of this pyramid. Then his majestic disk would... Now remember the great... actually I got it on the next slide. Then his majestic disk would appear for some moments placed upon this immense pedestal and to rest upon it while his worshippers on their knees at its base, extending their view along the inclined plane of the northern side of the pyramid, would contemplate the great Osiris, as well as when he descended into the darkness of the tomb and when he rose from it triumphant. So pagans perverted the death and resurrection of Christ by coming up with their own version, Osiris, of which any of you guys have listened to any of our studies in Revelation, I believe, is Osiris is the copycat resurrection and is performed by the beast in Revelation 13. But so they perverted that meaning. But look at this. That's the symbol of the sun over the pyramid, and that's when it happened. All right. We're going to look at. I'll break it down for you on the thing here. 7 months of the sun's generating power. So the Great Pyramid puts a half a month before the spring equinox. Then it obviously goes 6 months. And then at the fall equinox, it has another half. So that's bisected for some reason, which gives us this curious number, 208 days. Do you know there's actually 208 bones in your human body? Fascinating. God's mathematics and his ratios are perfect. And anyways, I'm going to go and read a little bit more here. The seed was indeed the type of life. Now, what are we told to do? Plant seeds, right? The word is the seed. We're talking about this before. Even DNA is it's God's encoded word. It's the program. It's a digital code actually that tells your body how to make itself. I mean, it's fascinating when you look at that. So when you think of it, the seed holds that entire program, holds the entire word, and it can. When you plant it, it can actually grow into its full structure. But anyways, the seed was the type of life. Up until the vernal equinox, it was the seed of life preserved in the ark, and the imagery of the sphere corresponded while between spring and autumn, the 7 months, orientally reckoned, it was ripened by the sun. Now think of what germinates the seeds that we plant in people's minds. The light of God. Not the physical sun, obviously, but seeds need light. Otherwise, they're not going to grow. So it's God's power that does it when we plant it and we leave it there and come back and see. And 7 is the great number that governs the periodicity of vital functions. Everything operates. God has everything operating on 7. All right, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'll... Let me just see here. I'll just go to this slide. don't want to read too much here. So what you have here, basically you have 207 days of seed time, or 208. We're not exact here. But plus 153 days was the number of the fish that the disciples caught. And that equals a 360-day prophetic year. John 12, verse 24, and John 21, verse 11. Interesting. So basically why this is the period of the fish is because your food, during this season, your food wouldn't come from the ground, but you could still get fish from the sea. And that's why it's the period of the fish there. What do you make out of that? It's just, well, there's a reason why God used, why they caught 153 fish. Why not 175 or something like that? So God always throws these things out for us so we can dig in deeper. Okay, we're going to go back to this solar seal here. The solar seal contains numerics related to the sun and its effect upon heaven and earth, both scientifically and spiritually, and of course, prophetic time as well. It's a 6x6 square, 36 cells, and if you were to go 6 plus 6, you get 12, which is the number of the zodiac. But basically what this is, it's the sum of the numbers. When you look at this, all these numbers here actually add up to 666. The sum of the numbers 1 through 36. In case I don't have a slide on it, 36 is the number of constellations in the heavens. So 666 is therefore the sum of all the constellations of the heavens. The reason why Satan wants that number. He wants to be king of all the heavens, which 666 is the addition of every sign in heaven. Remember, I'll just show the example here. So if you add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, see all the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, they're just mixed up. All these numbers are in here, but if you add them all up, you get 666. There. 36 constellations. Go back to the solar seal here. So if you add up these rows, every row adds up to 111, the number of light. And that adds up to 666. Even the rows and columns. So if you're going this way, they all add up to 111. And even if you go that way, it's amazing. Even if you go diagonally, you get 111. So really, what do you have here? Do you have just 666?
888.
You have 888 with the cross, right? With the addition of the cross. That's the big difference. Satan does not want us to accept the cross. That's why 666 to him is such a special number, because it's rejecting the cross. It's creation rejecting the blood of the Lamb that covers us from our sins. 111, we talked about, equals light, which the sun is a symbol of. Day 1 of creation, that's for your foundations, always in Genesis. What did God say? Let there be light. Now that was before even the sun was, before the sun was even either created or put in its proper place, depending on what your perspective is on that. So there was a different light that existed before the sun. I have no doubt it was the Spirit that moved upon the waters. It was the light, the true light, not the physical sun. It was the eternal light, which is Christ. 1 is obviously a number of God. There's only one God. But 111, are you guys hearing me through the speakers? Okay, it's just probably because I'm behind them. 111 is God times 3, which is the Trinity. Now I'm going to read some interesting from page 320 of Our Inheritance in the Great Seal of Manasseh by Charles Totten. Going here for the number 111. He says, now if we add as a course the capstone itself, which rounds and finishes the whole building, we have exactly 222 courses. this latter number is most significant. It is 111 times 2. Remember the cross? That's 111 times 2. And that number in gematria comes out to the sons of the living God. That number 222. Or 111 does, I'm sorry. Actually, I'll have to check that. I don't know if he was saying 222. It looks like he might be saying 222 does. The assurance of certainty. How beautiful then is this scheme of architecture in which 13, the national number of the great people Manasseh, or some people view it as Ephraim, that's another topic for another time, but is multiplied by the 17 of God's people, bringing the earthly part of this of the noble structure up to 221 courses, while by the addition of the dominant and elect and precious chief cornerstone of I guess I'll finish reading it. Of 2 cubits in height, preeminently the emblem of him who is above all others, is the very Son of the living God, and his only begotten Son. The whole building, thus so grandly capped, becomes 222, or the everlasting house, Bethel, of God himself. How expressive, too, then, when seen in its true light, the beautiful symbolism of St. Paul in the 2nd chapter of Ephesians 19, verses 19 through 22 now becomes, in which taking the Great Pyramid as the archetype, and he says, basically he says you are built up into a spiritual stone temple. This is what he said there. All right. I don't know how much, I don't want to go too long with this, but 111 is again used as a factor of the sons of the living God, and it's also a factor of the number 1776. 1776 is actually 888 times 2, which is Jesus Christ times 2. So that's a number that's really, really neat when you look into it. Now, of course, the bad guys, the Illuminati, what did they do? They formed their group in 1776. So now we look at 1776 and we associate everything as to do with them. Now again, Satan usurps things because he's trying to cover over the truth. All right. So we see 777 and 888 are actually a part of this. So this ultimately goes to 888. What do you see here? Your natural breakup here is the plus and the multiplication sign. Where else do you see that? The Union flag of Great Britain. You're going to see that in the pyramid here in a second too, that same cross. So even if you take the sum of the 11 diagonal rows, obviously that adds up to 666 as well. But 11, what is that a number of? It's seen in the sun. It's the solar flare cycle. So you see all these numbers in that square. God just created. Everything God does is it revolves around numbers. Now, if you take these sides and you times them times each other, you get this number here, which, and you do this with biblical mathematics. It looks like you're playing with it and you're having fun with it, but it's not when you get into it. It's actually supposed to be that way. It comes into a number line that goes all the way up to 9 and back down. What does that remind you of? I am the first and the last, the Alpha and the Omega. 9 is the highest digit that there is. Anything after that is an addition of those same digits. Okay, we were talking about the division of the year. And this is important because God would always say everything was related in Revelation to a harvest, to seed planting and all that. It relates to these spiritual lessons. So we're given a physical sign that time is a 7-month period every year. And you see, if you see how this goes up, it goes 6 plus 5 is 11, plus 5 is 16, plus 5 is 21, plus 5 is 26, plus 5 is 31. Intervals of 5 in the cross here. 1 plus 7 is 8, and so on. So you got 5 and 7 is the harmonious break of a year of this again, this balance of the cross. For those of you who weren't here this morning, if you project the 12 signs of the zodiac onto a scale, it doesn't rest at 6 like you would think it would. It actually, if you put your finger on here, it would rest at 7, which is the number of the Sabbath. 6 is still movement. God created the earth in 6 days. So 6 is all movement, and 7th was the rest. That's kind of neat there. All right. All right, 222. Number 37 is a number that has to do with creation. I'll zip through this. That's seen all over. I'll go back there. If you add up these numbers here, they go opposites with each other. 1 plus 36 is 37. 8 plus 29 is 37. You see how, I mean, it's amazing how this one little square can have all this, and it's actually contains scientific movements of the sun in its relation to the stars and the earth. And 37, I'll just read this. The integers 3 and 7 are special numbers. They combine and intertwine in the gematria of the Bible in its descriptions of creation. Even a brief surface study of creation reveals these two amazing numbers. And the more in depth we proceed, the more profound they become. They are figure numbers, i.e. they form shapes. The number 3 is the first triangular number. Page 24 by Bonnie Gant. So the number 37 is a creation number. And you see that right in the very beginning. It says, in the beginning created God the heaven and the earth. And if you add up all those, the numeric value for each Hebrew letter, you come up with the total 2701, which is 37 times 73. This is a thing you see in biblical numerics. You see mirror images, 37, 73. So when people get into really advanced science and mathematics, it's like there's no way these things do these things by themselves. Somebody designed it to be that way. There's a grand architect, so to speak, creator, who has his thumbprint over everything. The same mathematical ratios that you see in the heavens are found on the earth, in plants, living matter, in the human body. Like we said, even our human body relates to the sun's regenerating power of the 208 days. The word wisdom, 73. And this place value, I'm not sure what that is. I can't remember what that is. But anyways, 73 there. The word logos, which is an important word because that's what Christ is. He's the logos. 373. Bizarre. All right, so 37 is a factor of Jesus and even Christ. Now, we talked about Noah's flood, remember? He was on the ark for 370 days. You add up the perimeter here of all these numbers, you get 370. That's another prophetic year in God's great calendar here. Now, what is 370? You just drop the 0, you have that creation number again, 37. All right. 74 is another number. Now, I'm just going to show this here. So if we were to put lines here and say this was the solstice, this is the equinox, this is the other solstice. And just think of the sun's movement there. Next to the solstice, next to the solstice, it still stays there. And you can see how it develops. If you're just counting 1, you're going to the next number 2, next number 3, next number 4, next number 5, next number 6. And then 7, now it'll go next to the next row. It's like the sun's moving, making its progress through the... Now the sun actually moves through the 12 signs of the zodiac, but in that process, it's going through all 36 constellations, because every sign of the zodiac has the minor constellations attached to it in their region. I'll show you why that's significant. So anyways, as you see it develops, it goes towards the equinox, towards the middle. It works its way back out. I won't read all this. And then it keeps going. Oops. Now if we watch the vertical pattern, let me see here. All right. Skip that. You'll see how it'll fill up. It won't ever go in the same line in numerical order. It's filling up each row. Not necessarily in consecutive order, but it's never going in the same row. So you go 1 through 6. Now 7, it has to double up in a row. 8 does the same thing. And it'll keep doing this as it goes through each number of 1 through 6, each set of 6. But what it does here, this is kind of another topic for another time. It keeps doing that, but then it goes out of sequence. Now, after you're at 17 here, 18 should be here, right? It goes over here. It doubles up. And 20 does the same thing. Whoops. So it goes out of order at 18 and 19. Now what's significant about that is the number 18 and 19 years is part of the eclipse cycle. Remember the sun and the moon for signs and seasons? 18 and 19 years are a period of time in God's plan with the movements of the solar-lunar cycle. That's when it's called the Metonic cycle. That's when the solar year and the lunar year match up there. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night. Let them be for signs, seasons, days, and years." That's all we're really seeing there when we're looking at that. It's just showing astronomy on a square. All right, it's just working its way back out the same way. All right. So Psalms 19 verse 1 tells us that the heavens declare the glory of God and the firmament showeth his handiwork, and it sure does. So you might be wondering, well, why are we looking at astronomy? What does this matter? Well, if you want to understand Revelation 12 sign, the Revelation 13 sign, this is your foundation stuff. You're not going to just all of a sudden understand it one day by an epiphany. It takes wisdom and understanding to figure these things out. In the end, through the prophet Daniel, the angel came to the prophet Daniel and said, in the end, knowledge shall be increased, and people will start to understand this stuff. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. So what are we saying here? All those movements that we're looking at, they tell us, they talk to us every single day, whether it's the sun moving through the zodiac, or different things with the planets and their movements in the background. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. It's a witness. Their line has gone throughout the earth. Their words, their words to the end of the world. In them he hath set a tabernacle for the sun. That was what we were looking at there. The 36 signs of our constellations are the tabernacle that the sun moves through. Which is as a bridegroom, Christ, coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. So that all that movement that we're seeing there, all those numbers that were going right there, that's describing his running through his tabernacle, his people even. His going and energizing them like the sun goes through its circuit and gives life. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit to the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. That thing that we looked at, that square here, that is the circuit that Psalms was talking about. It describes it exactly, and it makes the cross. And even when you break up the tribes of Israel, you think of this as the tabernacle of the true Son of Righteousness, and you'd have the division there of the encampment of Israel. Now, if you overlay this over the pyramid, there's a curious thing about the pyramid is actually These sides are convex. There's actually a line here where I got these white lines here. And here's your natural corners that you see. Now, you can't really see these convex lines by looking at it. You have to look from above to actually notice them. And that's the one big difference between this pyramid and all the other pyramids in Egypt. The other pyramids didn't have that. And they probably couldn't do it. They probably couldn't manufacture it because it would be so difficult mathematically. This is something that's really cool because we're saying that. And I'm going to tie this in at the end here, and you're going to find out how this all comes together. And it's fascinating. This is New Jerusalem, this pyramid here. I'll show you that in a second here. You see this is exaggerated here? The Great Pyramid looking down from the top, actually these sides actually are convex. What they do is they create other geometric points. And if you go from AB around just straight across and not going in the convex, if I was to take a tape measure and skip that divot and just go from point to point, guess what number you come up with? 365.242 cubits. The number of days in a solar year. So each edge represents our current solar year. Now what's even more profound than that is there's this, and I don't understand these ones quite yet. Sidereal year is another astronomical year that astronomers know about. And that's 365.256 years. And then there's the other year called an anomalistic year, and that's 365.259. So all the three different types of solar years that astronomers know about are in the measure are encoded in this pyramid on the edge there. It's a symbol of the sun. Now we're going to deconstruct this pyramid. We're going to do a real simple thing of it. I mean, I got a 4-volume set on this that's stacked up about this that you can really go into. I'm going to go over this would be like if we should have learned this in elementary school, this type of stuff. This is geometry that we should have learned instead of the geometry and stuff. Math was boring to me in school. It was just numbers. But numbers, if you understand true mathematics and their meanings and how they relate to things, how they relate to astronomy and geometry, it's exciting stuff. So we're going to deconstruct this. What do you see here? You have the multiplication sign. Just like we were talking about Ephraim and Manasseh, when Jacob blessed them, he made that symbol. But you also have, so that's the altar of the cross of Christ. Remember, in Isaiah, God said this was a sign. He says he called it an altar unto the Lord. If you're looking down from the top, it's exactly what it is. It's the altar of the cross that Christ was crucified on. You have the multiplication sign and the addition, two different versions of the cross. That life-giving symbol. So altar, both addition and multiplication. Okay, I'm just going to read this. Indeed, it would seem that this is from Computation of 666. Now I got the page number there for you, 228. Indeed, it would seem that the cross is at the beginning and end of all the great phenomena of nature. Wherever force is connected with matter, the nature's products have been undisturbed, i.e. where no destructive hand has been at work, whether in animal, the vegetable, or the mineral kingdom, wherever nature's grand formative power has been at work, there you may find the cross, that beauteous emblem of life that proceeds from God, and which His mercy that endureth forever has employed in the death of His beloved Son, as the only means by making us perfect and worthy to stand before Him who was and is to come, the perfect and the holy before all time. Now, when this pyramid, supposedly many people, they believe it was erected about 4,000 years ago. Whether that's true or not, supposedly the only star that has shined through this passageway into the pyramid, this was Draco the dragon. Now when you look at that, you think, I got it right now. This pyramid was erected unto the dragon. It's aligned with that star. Think about it for a minute. Where does the dragon go? Down to the bottomless pit. All right? Now, Christ went down to the bottomless pit, symbolizing his death, but he resurrected. And you got this escape shaft, so to speak. This symbolizes resurrection. All right? Then you got the grand gallery and so forth. But I'm going to, in this king's chamber, you find, they came up there thinking they were going to find gold or something. There really wasn't supposedly there was some writing in there, but it's disputable whether or not people had gotten in there and written some stuff. But basically, overall, it was unlike all the other Egyptian pyramids where they had hieroglyphics all over the place of their gods and you name it. This thing was empty, just stones. It's bizarre to them. And there was an empty tomb in there, no lid. This tomb had to have been placed in there at the construction of the pyramid because you wouldn't. The dimensions are such that you wouldn't be able to bring it in. So it was actually built around this. It's none other than the symbol of Christ defeating death. Remember they went into that stone tomb that Joseph had? And it was empty. Christ arose. Empty tomb is a testimony of Jesus' resurrection. All right. Now we're going to deconstruct this geometrically real quick. And I think we're getting pretty close. I know we're going long, but the square represents earth. And the pyramid represents heaven. It points upwards, whereas this is the base, like the foundation. You got the 4 points, north, east, south, and west. What's interesting about this in Job 38, when God was talking to Job about how he created the earth, he describes it like a pyramid. Now check this out. Well, we know it wasn't a pyramid, but he describes it as such so we could see the language and know that the pyramid was a symbol of the building block of creation. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Or who hath stretched the line upon it? The measuring stuff. Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? He describes it just like how you would build a pyramid. And that's being the base of the pyramid is square, and it represents the earth. And here we go. So if we're going to deconstruct the Great Pyramid geometrically, we'll unfold it. You'd basically find a square and 4 triangles. Which square has 4 points, or 4 sides, so the numeric value of that is 4. A pyramid or triangle is 3. So go 3 plus 3 plus 3. Altogether, what do you get here? That points up to the heavens. 12. How many signs of the zodiac are there? 12. Heaven and earth. Even in numerics, the pyramid is the symbol of the union of heaven on earth. Remember what in the Lord's Prayer, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on heaven and on earth. That's our great hope. That's what this is a symbol of. The square and the triangle united. And the pilgrims, when they came over to America, their whole theme was they wanted to be a city upon a hill to give light unto the world. Obviously, that's changed. Our people have never been perfect. And we're dealing with that. But, all right. So to end that out, I guess maybe there's a couple more verses here I'll read. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and you shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. I'll just read this real quick. Arise, shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But the Lord shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. And the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and the kings to the brightness of thy coming. And then you get to Isaiah 60, verse 19. It says, the sun shall no more be thy light by day, nor brightness. Neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee, but the Lord shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and the Lord thy glory. The sun shall no more go down, neither shall thy moon withdraw itself, for the Lord shall be thine everlasting light, and the days of thy mourning shall be ended. Thy people also shall all be righteous. They shall inherit the land forever, the branch of my planting, and the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. That's it. Anybody got any questions? Did I fill you with a lot of numbers? Your head just...
There's something to add.
Yeah.
Specifically in Isaiah 60 is the same as Revelation 21 and 22, where it talks about the fact that in the new city there isn't going to be a sun, because the sun is the sun of righteousness. Another thing that was kind of interesting that you pointed out earlier, going back to Revelation 21, it's 21 or 22, you made a point, the 7 plus the 5, right?
Yeah.
So you have the 7, which is symbolic of the sun and how it's life.
Yep.
And then you had the 5 months of the fish, which is death. What I found was interesting is in the new city, there is no sun because Christ is the sun, he is the light. But the other part to that is there's going to be no more sea, which is where the fish are.
Yeah.
And no more night.
Symbolic of death. So I thought that was kind of cool. That I don't know what it means exactly, but
Yeah.
it kind of stuck out to me, like, because I was just thinking fish and whatever. I thought it was kind of interesting. There's no more sea, which is symbolic of fish, which is death, and I don't know what it means, but kind of fascinating. And it's the same as Isaiah 60 there.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of us have been studying for a long time. When Christ approached Nicodemus, a lot of us have been studying for 20 plus years. He looked at Nicodemus, he said, "You're a teacher." He was trying to teach him about, I think it was the seed might have been one, about the seed going into the ground and dying and coming back to life. He goes, "You're a master of Israel, and you don't understand what I'm talking about?" And he said, "How am I going to be able to tell you of heavenly things if you can't even understand the earthly things?" There's that division of knowledge. So when we look up into astronomy, those are the signs that teach us the heavenly knowledge. That's why the bad guys look up to the heavens, because they're trying to get that higher knowledge. So there's that division of earthly. You can look at nature and the earth and learn things, but there's the higher level of the heavenly. And we talked about, if you relate that numerically, what's unique about astronomy, its movements and everything, it's number in time and in space. So it's, whereas like geometry is number and, I have a slide on it, I can't remember how it all goes, but anyways, it's pretty cool stuff. Number and space, yes. Yeah, not time, it's just space, because it's dimensions. But the astronomy makes geometric shapes with all of its movements, so you have both geometry and number and time.
One more thing too that I just thought of.
Multi-dimension, I guess is my point.
One more thing I just thought of for Revelation 21 and 22 as well is when it defines the new city coming down, the shape of it appears to be in a pyramid, is like you're talking about there, and it also has the dimensions at 144,000, I believe, which is what the...
Now, we can't say for sure whether it's a pyramid or a cube.
Yeah.
All we know is that it gives us the base.
Yeah.
But when you look at the Great Pyramid and you see that when you deconstruct it, a cube really it doesn't seem to be symbolic of heaven. It doesn't point upwards of the union of heaven on earth. Like, that's the whole purpose of New Jerusalem. It's to combine heaven on earth. And a cube doesn't really represent that geometrically, as far as I know. I could be wrong. But when you think of it, New Jerusalem is a city upon a hill. Is a cube a hill? No, but a pyramid's a hill. It's a symbol of a mountain. The mountain of the Lord.
Capstone.
Yeah, and the capstone. So when you look at all the different reasons, it just, to me, I can't see it being a cube.
I agree.
Yeah. I just can't find any other example where it's a cube. I guess you could look at the tabernacle and say that was a cube or something like that in the Holy of Holies. But, or, I guess maybe it's depending on what mathematical perspective you're looking at. It could be both a cube and a pyramid. Maybe there's something we're missing. I don't know. But anyways.
Just to add, a lot of these numbers that you mentioned, it's amazing how much they have in common with music.
Yes.
A lot in common with music.
Music
the
is
thirds to the sevenths.
Yep.
It's the music. The notes that exist are 7 notes and 5 accidentals. That makes up all the sounds.
Yep. Everything's in harmony. God's creation goes along with the balance of numerics and music, like you're saying.
Well, music can move you spiritually so quickly.
Yeah. And that's why even in heaven, what do we do right away when we get there? We're singing a new song. Yeah. My music right now might not move you guys too much. Should we take a break and then move on to Holy Communion? We're technically supposed to be out here at 9, so. But they've been kind of just letting us stay here, so hopefully they'll let us stay a few more minutes. All right. We'll take a little break and then we'll get into communion. Just a few verses that we're going to read for communion, then we'll get started. Christian Overcomers is brought to you by the tithes and offerings of our listeners. If you'd like to donate, you can do so by going to ChristianOvercomers.com. God bless you, and thank you for your support.